Welcome to the Scoop World Order, brought to you by Twin Peaks and Buffalo Wild Wings. Huge Thursday show for you guys tonight. I know the Indians are chugging along in the ALCS. Quick happy birthday to our guy Steely. He's on here every night. Happy 60th to our dude. Doesn't look a day over 35. Appreciate you, my guy, for always being on here. Want to wish you a happy birthday. Shout out to Sean Schrock for giving me the heads up on that. It's been a wild day, a busy day, a lot going on in the Woody Hayes. Coaches are about to hit the road and go recruiting. Players get a little bit of time off. Some spirited, violent practices this week. We got some intel on. And we're going to do our grades, our mid-season grades. We're going to go through each position group, give a letter grade, and you guys can participate, put your grades in the chat, and we're going to take your questions on Super Chats. As always, again, our Super Chats go to Pay It Forward. Again, that is a great deal. If you guys are military members, first responders, people that take care of us, we try to take care of you guys, and so does the Scoop family. So thank you guys for that. Our Scoop merchandise show or drop is still going. REP, the THE Scoop SCOOP.com will take you right to our store. Repthescoop.com. Our gear's going to be up for another week or so. You'll get it all by Christmas. Obviously, much quicker than that in all likelihood, but it's kind of a Christmas drop. So there's some really good stuff. There's a really nice winter hat that I've already ordered. I can't wait to rock it. It's a Nike black Buckeye Scoop winter hat. That thing is very fashionable. So super stoked about that. But again, I just appreciate you guys that have been wanting merch. So we delivered the merch for you guys. So repthescoop.com. Go there. If you have any questions, go to buckeyescoop@gmail.com. Send it away and we will get those answered to you. But we appreciate you guys. I know that you guys love the gear. You guys love representing. Something that we are going to start doing is if you guys wear your Buckeye Scoop stuff somewhere cool, or somewhere you have a cool photo, vacation, traveling, even if you're at your home bar, whatever, send us photos. We'd love to display it a little bit. You guys showing, rocking the gear. As you guys know, I wear Ohio State stuff, Buckeye Scoop stuff every single day. And it's namely, I've got 20 of these hoodies, so I wear it every day. I love wearing it. I love representing the brand, and I love that you guys like to represent the brand. So thank you. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, if you guys want to do something awesome for us, and a lot of you guys are doing it, really appreciate it. If you guys give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, that is so humongous for us. Again, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the love. That's the best way you could do to thank us for working every single day, bringing the goods to you, dig in for inside information. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify. They're both completely free subscriptions, and they really help us out. So spread the good word. Send it to your friends, text it to your friends. And I appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do. With that being said, I'm going to bring in my favorite soccer betting partner, Nevada. Nevada, how has your day been today?
I've been on a cooler today, man.
I was like, I should be in Antarctica right now, man. Good God.
Yesterday I was like hotter. Like yesterday I could not miss. Everything I bet just won. It's like win. And today it's like everything I step into is losing. So I've got one more live bet going on right now, and if I lose that one, then I'm just gonna retire from betting for at least the next 24 hours, and then come back strong.
Yeah, I feel you. I showed you the goal I lost on it. It was hilarious, but it's all good. So Ohio State is wrapping the bye week up. The coaches are going to hit the road and go recruiting. Typical bye week fare. Go say what's up to some guys. Kind of travel the country. Try to get home Friday night, if not Saturday morning. Spend a couple hours with the family on Saturday, and then Sunday it's back into the mausoleum that is the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for film study of Nebraska. I'm sure they've already done all the scouting for Nebraska. That's always done a week before. I'm sure they got some scout work in, but they've had a couple of pretty violent practices. They're getting after it pretty good. A lot of reps for the young guys. Some of the older guys are a little dinged up, so they're holding those guys out. But I think that, like I said, you either win or you learn. I don't like to use the word loss, especially in football, because in most football seasons, you're not going to go undefeated. So, when you lose, you got to learn something. And again, these guys, I think, learned that they can't lose the turnover battle. Got to be sharper on special teams. But they're close. Again, there's variances of losses in life. Like when you play football, there's times where you get housed and you look like you weren't prepared, and you didn't do anything all week, whatever. And there's games where you lose by 1 point on the road at night, whatever. So there's no such thing as a good loss, but this is something these guys can learn from. And I think that they have learned from it. And again, I think Ryan's going to turn the heat up on these guys a little bit. And, he's got to be laser focused when you play equal talent. But I think it's been a productive bye week. What say you, Nevada?
Yeah, and I think what's been the most interesting about this whole loss is that I can say definitively and with 100% confidence that the OSU fan base is way harder on the team than the entire rest of the planet. More so than the national media, more so than the pundits, more so even from fans from other teams. The OSU fan base is by far way harder on Ohio State, and I really don't understand it. Kirk Herbstreit, who I don't always agree with, but lately he's actually been making more sense. But man, he ripped into the fans today. I think, let me see his quote here. His quote was, "By the way, Will Howard taking blank from Ohio State fans. Again, it's that vocal 10 to 12, 15%. They're an embarrassment to the fan base." Um, that's kind of how I feel. That's kind of how I feel. I kind of feel like, man, we're close. Howard was good. I know that I've seen the posts about in the 4 losses that Ryan Day's had in the past 3 years. We've given up points in the fourth quarter on every possession, and it's like, I get it. I hear. I just don't know what people want at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, are they advocating fire the DC? Are they advocating fire Knowles? Are they advocating firing the players? Do they differentiate in their mind at all between field goal stops and touchdowns, or this is everything just bad? I can't really come up with it because it just seems like a steady stream of negativity from a segment of the fan base, and it's just weird. It's tiresome. I mean, it does get tiresome because I just don't know how people can live that way. I mean, it's not that bad. We lost by 1 point. It's unfortunate. If we lost by 30, and on the parade of horribles, if we lost by 30 and Ohio State didn't feel there were problems, that would be the worst case. If you lose by 1 and Ohio State is still doing soul searching and addressing it, that's from short of winning, that's about the best case scenario that you can hope for right there. And for me, I think the pressure of being perfect weighs heavy on a team. I think coaching gets a lot more impactful when you're coming off of a loss. And short of the injury bug clicking Ohio State, which it is clicking Ohio State right now, I just don't have too much to be super upset about with the Buckeye. I think we're right there, and I know. Yeah, we had discussions on the board today, and people were trying to explain to me that Craig Krenzel was the better quarterback than C.J. Stroud or Justin Fields because he won a championship. The 2014 defense that gave up 22 points a game was the best defense in school history because they won a championship. And I'm just like, man, I just don't agree with that. I think football, to me, has always been a complementary sport. I think you win as a unit. And sometimes one unit picks up another one, but you never win by yourself. You guys, you never won a game, Kirk, just by the offense, and you never lost a game just by the offense. It's always special teams and defense and offense, playing together and playing complementary football. And, sometimes in these fourth quarters, hey, maybe the offense could have done a little bit better. Maybe the offense could have scored. If we'd have scored if we'd have scored at the end of Georgia 2023, or 2022 rather, or Michigan 2023, or Oregon 2024, those losses become wins. But nobody's complaining about that. So I just think that you just gotta take a step back, take a deep breath, and that's why I like doing these grades. I like taking a look back and kind of going, how is the team grading out? Where are we at relative to our expectations? And for me, I think we're in pretty good shape. And like I said, short of the injuries is the stuff that I'm not happy about. That's the stuff that you can't get around. But everything else, man, I'm in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think that when we've lived through some bad losses. Like again, I personally lived through like the Florida game I've talked about way too much in my life, where we got smashed and there was no recourse. There was no tomorrow. Like when we lost the Florida game, like we didn't get to go back to practice, and that's the benefit to this. Is like we took a loss and it was on the road and it was by 1 point, whatever. But we've seen in recent history where that's actually been an advantage. Like when Georgia beat Alabama in the SEC title game, I talked about it yesterday in 2022. Then they came back and lost the national championship game. Same two teams played. Alabama celebrating, lifting up the SEC thing in Atlanta and confetti everywhere and the whole 9 yards. And guess what? Like, it didn't matter because, winning the SEC is cute, but when you win the national championship, it's the ultimate trump card. So like I said, we've seen the Purdue and Iowa losses that were, we lost by multiple touchdowns and looked tired or flat or played poorly, whatever. I just didn't feel that at Oregon. Like, I felt like we ran out of time. I felt like if Will Howard we were like 1 yard away from kicking a game-winning field goal. Again, I'm not blaming Will Howard. I'm just saying, like, Will Howard couldn't have played any harder, I thought it was fantastic the whole night. But like Urban Meyer, who he does a podcast now, and I listened to it last night because I love Coach Meyer and text him all the time. He's awesome. He's like, we were this close to winning the game. Like, literally. Like, I mean, if he slides this far, and he's not blaming him, but it's just like, that's how close we were to winning. This wasn't some blowout. We didn't look like we didn't deserve to play. It didn't look like we were flat. Again, we started the first drive off. I was like, we're going to be a juggernaut, and he was sitting next to Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart's like, Ohio State's about to blow out Oregon. Like, after that first drive where we just cut through him like a hot knife through butter, it was great. But again, a turnover margin hurt. And if you count the squib kick as a turnover, then that hurts our defense. I mean, I know people want to beat the defense and kill Jim Knowles and get rid of all the players and everything. But I'm like, we put them in bad spots twice, and they held them to field goals. And again, I've said this 100 times, but at the very end of the game, when we needed them the most, they held them to a field goal. They gave us the ball back with 1:48, a timeout, and, we had to get, 50 yards, and we got it. Then we had the bad penalty. So again, like I've gone over this 1,000 times, but very, very opportunistic about our chances. I thought Zed Mikulski stepped in and played well, given the circumstances. I mean, does he have to play better? Yeah, but now he's going to be a full game as the starter, as the man at left tackle. And that's a whole different ball of wax than when you're the reserve coming off the bench, cold. Now he's going to be in it. And the coaches are going to be all over him to get him right. And I'm excited for Zen. Like, again, this is the kind of opportunity that these kids pray for. And, you never pray for your teammates to get hurt, but now it's his time to shine and step up and be that guy. And again, if the 14 team can lose Braxton Miller, who was the preseason Heisman guy, and then JT Barrett, who probably was going to go to New York as a Heisman guy, and then still win the national championship, like, we could lose Jimmy Simmons and still survive. I promise you. Because with Chip Kelly's offense, he's always done great with average linemen at Oregon and wherever he's been, UCLA. Like, go look at where those guys get drafted. They're not first-round picks. They're not mid-round picks. A lot of them are late-round or undrafted. And his scheme is so good that he can actually still get the work done. So, all right, Nevada, let's go through the grades real quick because this is it's going to be interesting. Let's start with quarterback. I'll let you go first because I'm sure I'm going to match you with this because I think Will Howard has been absolutely fantastic. Running the offense, again, I'm not strictly a numbers guy. I've never been just a strict stats guy where people are like, oh, well, he's, he hasn't thrown for 2,000 yards already, whatever the number is. Like, I look at how he runs the show, how he manages the team, how he is as a leader, and I think he's an A easily. Like, he's been money well spent in the NIL fund. He's the clear leader of the team. But what are your thoughts at the quarterback position? What is your grade at midseason?
I mean, A plus. I mean, I don't know how to grade it any other way. I mean, I think the only argument would be, is it an A plus or an A? But he's certainly exceeded my expectations. Played nearly flawlessly. And he's just way better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be good. I thought he'd be, closer to Josh Allen, a little bit wilder with the ball. And he's precise. He's got a strong arm. He is unflappable in the pocket, cool as a cucumber, doesn't drop his head, doesn't turtle, great pocket presence, moves around well. So yeah, no, A plus for me. And you're super glad. If we don't have him, we don't make the college football playoff. I mean, if he gets hurt, we don't make the college football playoff. That's how important I think he is to the team. Which is not a slam on Devin or Julian or anybody else on the team, but Will Howard's different. And if we had him last year, I think we win the national championship. So that's how important I think he is. And it's a shame that his career is going to be over here before we know it. But A plus for me.
That's the worst part about the portal to me, man, is like you get a kid like this and you're like, God, I can't wait to see him in year 2 of the system. And, you get him for 1 year, but I think he's absolutely fantastic, and he's been great. Running backs, Trey and Quinshawn. I mean, it's got to be another A. I mean, Quinshawn's going to get crap about the fumble, but he's been so productive, and he's a warrior because he's playing through an injury right now. And it's like one of those things where I felt terrible when he fumbled because I think that the injury was affecting him. But I think that Quinshawn's an absolute animal, and he's been a great addition. I think Trey has been a great captain. He was one of the best players on the field on Saturday night. What do you give the running backs?
I mean, I think it's either an A minus or an A, but yeah, I'm leaning towards an A because I agree with you. I think they both had moments of absolute dominance, and recency bias is leading me to A minus just because that fumble by Quinchon, that's probably not fair. So an A for those two guys. They've been terrific. Certainly a team strength and everything that we hope they'd be.
Yeah. Let's go receivers. I think that, the receivers, I'd give them B plus or an A minus just because I don't know about the depth. And you can't grade Carnell because Carnell's been dinged up a little bit. But, the top two guys have been A pluses, obviously, with JJ being maybe the best receiver in the country. Emeka was fantastic this past game. I wish that we had more depth. Brandon Ennis has gotten some touches, but I feel like we've run 4 at most 5. If we put Bryson Rodgers in for a few plays, but I hoped for more out of some of the older guys. Like obviously, like the ship has sailed on Jaden Ballard and a lot of these guys, but I'd probably go A minus just because of the strength of JJ and Emeka at the top. But as a whole, like there's been some guys that I wish could have stepped up more. And it's also been hurt because Cardinal's been dinged up. He's missed some time. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think A minus is fair, and only because I agree. The top two guys are A. I mean A plus. I mean, what grade can you give higher than A plus for JJ Smith? I mean, to come in with that kind of that kind of hype, and not only meet it but surpass it is wild. So I think A minus strictly because we lean a little heavy towards the top two. But having said that, who else has 2 wide receivers like we do? I mean. Maybe Oregon's guys are good, but I would take JJ and Mac over anybody. But I think an A minus is fair for the wide receiver group as a unit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd take those two over any other receivers in the country at this point. Let's go tight ends so we can get the lowest grade out of the way. Will Kazmarek is out for the season now with the collarbone. Our blocking has just been below average, to be very, very kind. And we've gotten nothing out of Jelani Thurman, which is, of all the it's not shocking, but it's just like, Jelani has he could be like the JJ Smith of tight ends, but he has a very low motor and he's not a worker, and you got to keep your eye on him at all times, which gets old when you're a coach. But, I thought at a minimum, he could be a guy that could hold the point and be a good run blocker. I mean, he showed that in high school. Now, granted, he's not blocking guys in the Big Ten, but not getting anything out of Jelani is disappointing. So I'm going to go probably a D for our tight end group just because, and G. Scott has to lead the team in penalties. He might lead the league in penalties. But what are your thoughts on tight ends?
I give him a C. I think G's done some nice things. I think we've got some good blocking from Gerd in that full house T formation they've done. Kazmarek before his injury, I thought was terrific blocking. Tight end, not a great receiver, obviously. Johnny's gotten a lot of snaps, really hasn't done much. But I'm probably the nice teacher, and you're probably Mr. Mean. But I'm gonna go with a C for the tight ends.
I'm very mean. Offensive line, I would go. The line with Jimmy Simmons was probably an A minus at worst. He was really, really good. Losing him is devastating. Seth McLaughlin's been preseason. We had 2 guys that were All-Americans. I mean, A minus is probably the lowest I could go. I thought Tigra has been coming on. Really, it's hard not to give these guys an A. Even with the Oregon game, they were taking away the run at the end where we didn't really run it much in the second half, but we were throwing it all over them. Our pass protection was good. I think we might have given up 1 sack, but our quarterbacks have been clean. God, I probably got to give him an A. Just because I think even when Zen came in, it wasn't total vomit. He got beat a couple times, late. But for a kid being ice cold and getting in there, man, it was pretty good work. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, I think the sack was when Will fell down. I think when that was the sack.
Yeah.
So that's really not on them. I'm going to give him an A minus. I'm going to give him A minus only because of what 11 carries for 19 yards in the second half or whatever it
Hmm.
was. And again, maybe I'm being overly harsh now, but I think it's certainly a team strength. Certainly answered a lot of questions, and but no, they've in general provided a really clean pocket for whoever's been at quarterback, and running lanes for the running backs to run. So I give them an A minus.
All right, so let's move over to defense. The defensive line has been as maligned of a group as there is, just due to the lack of sacks. Again, that's something that people are obsessed with, which I get. I thought that when we didn't have Tyreek, it was difficult. I'd probably give the group a B, just because I feel like our defense has been, it starts up front. You still have to do your job, cage rushing, and even if it's not that sexy to do, you got to hold it down for those guys. But to me, I just think you look at the fact that, we've been good in general versus the run. I think our guys are playing hard. I think that they're leading. I think that some of it isn't necessarily their doing, where they've been a little handcuffed. But I also think that these guys, there aren't people in this universe that want to get sacked more than Jack and JT. I promise you, because like you go to the NFL Combine and you get interviewed by NFL GMs and they say, well, how did you only have 2 sacks your senior year, or whatever the number is, whatever they end up with? Like, it's not some gaudy total. It's not 15, 17. Like, like how are you going to be able to beat an NFL tackle if you couldn't beat Big Ten and MAC tackles? And so I think that the lack of production from the sack thing is something that probably drives those guys crazy. But I think that they've played hard versus the run. They've taken advantage of their opportunities. Again, I wish that we could have got Dylan Gabriel on the ground a little bit, but sometimes it's not always them. I think Caden Curry has flashed. I'd like more from Kenyatta Jackson Jr. Some of our backup defensive tackles got to figure it out pretty quick here. I mean, Caden McDonald is, I don't know if he's in the doghouse, but he when he's in there, he's productive, but he just doesn't play a lot. And we don't rotate our guys enough, in my opinion. So I'm going to go B with the D line. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, yeah, I think B's fair. I mean, I still think what's funny is despite the Oregon game and in the Oregon game we were completely devoid of creating any pressure. But I still think we're like top 20 in the country in sacks, which is kind of weird because I don't feel like we've sacked the quarterback hardly at all this year. So it's not quite as bad as I thought it was, but it was bad Saturday night. I mean, it was an F on Saturday night. So maybe I'm going B with maybe shading towards B minus for the defensive line, just because my expectations were so much higher. I mean, you've got Ty, who's a veteran, Tyreek, who's definitely a veteran, Jack and JT. It'd be hard to be more veteran than 4 years between the two of those guys, where they got 40 starts between or 80 starts between the two of them or something like that. I mean, so I don't know. I'm going to say B to B minus based upon expectations, and I really look to those guys to be a leader and have a great second half of the season and improve that grade.
I'm going to let you go first on the linebackers because I'm interested in your take on that because, I mean, we've talked a lot about the linebackers. What are your thoughts on them?
C, maybe a maybe a C plus, but C. I just don't think they do. I don't think they do enough. I mean, for me, you know, Cody is good, but then he'll make a play. A few times a game he'll miss a tackle that you just don't expect out of your veteran middle linebacker, block O recipient, Iron Buckeye. Like he'll not make play. And Sonny to me is the least athletic, super athletic guy that I've ever seen. I mean, like I know his athleticism in testing and everything is off the charts, and with his pedigree and his DNA and everything about him, but his lateral movement, he doesn't look fluid to me. Like I study movement all the time because that's what we do when we bet MMA. Is you're studying, who moves better, who's more athletic, who's more natural, who's a more natural striker, kicker, that type of thing. And Sonny to me, just when he's going side to side, just doesn't seem like I can't really put my finger on it. I hate to use the word stiff, but he looks a little stiff going sideways, and that's just not what I expect. I expected him just to be a dynamo, and and so I'm gonna give the group, I'm gonna give them a C.
I think C plus is fair. I mean, I think that, I think Cody's been, okay. I thought honestly we get more out of Cody, just because he's been around for a long time. I thought he was better than Seal Chambers last year, and he checks every box. Like he does everything the right way. He's physical, he's athletic, but I don't think he's as productive as I'd like. But Sonny's probably the biggest enigma on the team. He is, obviously everyone knows everything about Sonny. 5-star, looks the part. But I really think he's still learning linebacker, and I think that makes him look hesitant and slow sometimes because it's a different world from safety. Because you're in there quick. It's kind of like, like when I went from playing tackle to playing guard, everything happens way faster. It's a different world, and some people like it, some people don't like it, some people can adjust to it quicker. I didn't like playing guard at all. Like I liked playing tackle because I like my space and I like my. I like being able to set the edge, and it's more one-on-one blocks for me at tackle, or I'm the hammer on a double team as opposed to setting stuff up. So I was a big fan of tackle over guard. But Sonny, like again, he's got, it was interesting because he had that game versus Iowa where you're like, all right, here it comes, and then we didn't really show up the way we needed to versus Oregon. So again, that's something that'll be interesting. But I think C plus is fair. DBs. God, it's hard. It's like do you curve the test, or the Oregon game was obviously exposure city for these DBs, and pre-Oregon, if we would have did this after the Iowa game, we're probably saying A minus, A-ish. The Oregon game was obviously a disaster for that group. What are your thoughts on the DBs, Nevada?
Yeah, no, you it's like you're in my head. I pre-Oregon, I'm giving them an A minus. After Oregon, so I mean, it's you're definitely down. So it's only a question of is it a B or is it a B plus? But the Oregon game was bad. I mean, the Oregon game was just bad. I didn't feel like we challenged them. Denzel looked slow. Um, I yeah. I'm gonna go with B plus because I'm being charitable, and I don't want to be accused of just focusing too much on that last game. But the last game is important. B plus maybe with a lean towards the B.
I mean, I'd say B, just because I think that it's hard to, we had that recency bias where we just saw it and it was bad, and you just think, God, if they don't throw over our head all those times, if Denzel makes one stop out of the 8 times they threw it on him, was that enough for us to win? I don't know. But it was, it was like, it was funny because it wasn't like one of them had a bad night. Like our 3 corners at start weren't. They all had their worst games maybe of their careers. Like Davison wasn't good, Jordan Hancock wasn't good, and those guys have been spectacular. Now, granted, they've never seen anything like Oregon's guys, at least not in a real game. They see guys like that in practice every day, which that gave me that always gives me a little bit of comfort when I'm like, well, they got to go against Emeka and JJ. So, I mean, obviously they've seen what good looks like. And I mean, hell, Denzel's been going against Garrett Wilson since his freshman year and Chris Olave. And so I sometimes there's things in sports that you just don't understand and you can't explain. And Denzel getting cooked like he did was something that I'll never explain. But again, it happens. Like sometimes you have that night. So again, I brought up Bradley Roby. Bradley Roby in 2013, man, he had his night, and people were ready to kill Bradley Roby. I mean, and he ended up being a first round pick. Went to the Denver Broncos. Won a Super Bowl, like the whole 9 yards. So, I don't know. Like I think B is fair. I'm not trying to kill these guys for the Oregon game, but they hadn't seen anybody good all year on the perimeter. I mean, even when we play Iowa and Michigan State had the young freshmen, but they didn't have the ability to launch it the way Dylan Gabriel could. And again, when you look, there's a very good documentary that Oregon, they do everything like at a super high cutting edge level. And they did a documentary kind of on the week leading up to Ohio State, and they're in the staff room and they're in the team meetings, and they got Dan Lanning mic'd up, and he's talking about how we are going to take shots on these guys. They haven't seen any speed like us, and we're going to throw it over it. He keeps saying it over and over again. Sure as can be, we get to the game, and they launch it over our heads, and it was It was bad. So there's no other way to really describe that. Uh, Nevada, I don't know if we want to grade the kickers. Do you want to grade the kicking game, special teams? I mean, you could do the whole special teams if you want, because that would include our onside, our hands team. Because again, Ride even said, he reiterated today that we had the hands team on the field and they practiced the whatever you want to call that, the bullet kick or whatever. They shoot the bullet right at your chest and hope it bounces off. Like, they practiced against that and they just didn't execute it. And the funny thing is, it's literally like if you said, who is the guy that you would want them to kick the ball at? I'd say Caleb Downs, maybe JJ. You know, he said pick one guy that is on the hands team that has to recover the ball. I'd say Caleb. He does everything the right way. He's smart. He's athletic as can be, and great player, and always focused. And it just was one of those nights. But do you want to grade the special teams?
I'll give him an A-. I mean that 1-3 kick out of bounds thing was so weird that definitely cost you an A. But I mean, and I heard people were ripping our punting game after the Oregon game, and we were 40.3 yards net punting against Oregon. It allowed no return yards, and that's it. Oregon prides themselves on their punt return. 40.3 net punting is not bad. In fact, it's pretty good. So I that's another one of those things where I don't understand what people are expecting. I mean, if you kick it 50 yards but allow them to return it 10, you're not better off than just kicking it 40.3 and they get no return. So I think our kicking game, our punting's been solid. I tactically, it's not like they were caught off guard by them kicking off of the 50 and not watching for it. It just happened. So it was unfortunate. And like you said, there's very few people you'd want back there other than Caleb Downs, or up there rather. And Fielding's made his kick. So I'm going to give the special teams an A-, and maybe it should be a B+, but I think they've been fairly solid.
What goes through your head when someone says that the punting is bad, but we have a 40-yard net and no return yardage? Like, I just don't,
I don't know.
I guess you could be perfect, but I mean, it's just, that's so hard to do, but it's not like we gave up. I mean, you got to remember, like, Oregon gave up a kick and a punt return, and it cost them the game. I mean, or excuse me, not Oregon, Boise State. Boise State gave up two touchdowns to Oregon in the kicking game, and it cost them. And they were in a tight game just like we were. So, I don't know. I think that the Oregon that we saw was much better than the Oregon that Boise saw, because Boise came in there unranked, and I don't know if it's like a Friday night game or what it was, but it wasn't like the Ohio State the whole world is watching type atmosphere. So I always feel like, when we see these teams, we get their best shot, obviously, because, everyone wants to beat Ohio State. This is part of the life when you're in the big city. But I don't know. Like, I think I always wonder, people that are just like perpetually miserable or whatever when it comes to, like, following Ohio State, supporting Ohio State. I'm just like, is that how people live their whole lives, like, in every aspect? Because, like, again, I like where we're at. I think that this is going to be helpful for the team. I think it's going to be good. And again, I've been a part of, I've started in bad losses. I've coached on a 7-loss Ohio State team, 7-loss in one season Ohio State team. So I know what bad looks like better than anybody in the history of the media, because I've lived it. Like, I haven't been like some ancillary person that comes in on Wednesday and eats a ham sandwich and asks Ryan Day one question and goes about my merry way. Like, I've lived it. I've seen what bad looks like. I've seen blowouts. I've seen it all. And, like, this makes me feel confident. And honestly, like, I think that the guys are going to be a lot edgier, a lot more locked in, a lot chippier after a loss. And I think that it's like, once you've experienced that pain, there's a lot of motivation to rectify everything so that you don't have to experience that pain again. So again, I think that that's going to be something that, because again, like, if we win this game, I think the bye week practices aren't as chippy, the coaches aren't as edgy, life's kind of great. These kids are getting stroked nonstop by everyone that they talk to, and they're going home to their, to Florida or wherever, and they're the man, and everything's great. And instead, they got to go home and see everybody, and they're gonna have to deal with what happened, And so again, like, every time someone asks you what happened in a loss, it makes you a little edgier. It makes you a little tougher. It makes you a little more angry. And you have a chance to do something about that by going out and, playing ball, that's why, like, the one thing I love Urban because he's so on point when he talks about stuff. He's like, after a game like this, man, I just want to go play as fast as possible. So like a bye week is like the worst timing of all time. Now I thought like going into the game, obviously with the long trip, that it would be beneficial. I still think it's beneficial, but God, I mean, I would not be able to wait to get out in the horseshoe and play again after a game like that. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I mean, it just, you know, it's tough. I think Urban's got the benefit of experience and perspective and kind of step back and kind of look at things but a lot of wisdom in what he's saying and I know Ryan Day knows it and the team knows it and they're close. Like I said, the thing that's going to test them right now is going to test the great depth of this team. We've talked about how deep this team is, how talented this team is, the injury bug, and we've kind of been immune to it through the first 5 weeks of the season and. We saw all the teams kind of getting ravaged by it, but Ohio State's getting bit right now. So they've got to respond. It's a chance for some other guys to step up, get some playing time. Some guys that would have been buried on the depth chart, maybe not get a chance to shine. They're getting their Lou Gehrig moment right now. So while I'm not crazy about the bye week from that standpoint, I'm happy for the bye week because I think it really came at a good time from a health standpoint. So we can get a little. I won't say we'll get right, but we'll get righter before Nebraska comes to town. And I'm going to be eagerly waiting for that game because lots going to be on the line, and we're going to see where these guys are at.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get some super chats in. Larry Daniels, 1, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being an Ultra member and being on here every night. Please don't judge me. The last 2 head coaches have delivered a natty. Will Day's tenure be viewed as a success if he does not win a natty? Ooh, that is a great question. Nevada, I'll let you go first on that.
Well, I mean, it depends on what else happened. So it's no. I mean,
Yeah.
like if it ended now. I mean, to me that's an impossible question to answer. If you ask me, has Ryan Day's tenure been a success so far? I would say without question. Without question, it's been a success. I mean, he's winning at the highest rate, one of the highest rates, if not the highest rate in all of college football. He's recruiting at an extremely high level. He's evolving as he moved away from play caller to CEO. He's upgraded the staff to now the staff that we have is one of the best staffs I've ever seen at Ohio State. Academically, we're on par with Harvard. We have no off-field insight. I mean, so look, he's checking an awful lot of boxes, and I know I don't know how big the segment of the population is, but there's a sizable segment of the population, some smart people that are like, hey, let's move on from Day. We could do better. Man, I am not there. That's not to say that there couldn't find somebody, but the idea of going through the growing pains of Ryan Day, only to toss it all aside to go with somebody that could take us into the abyss. Here's the thing I'm convinced of. Ryan Day is not going to take us into the abyss. With Ryan Day, we're either going to win it or we're going to be close. But we're right there. So now you're going to throw that away for somebody who might win it, but might take us to 5 and 8 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's a fool's errand. I don't want any bit of that bargain. And so I'm Team Ryan Day. Always reserve the right to change my mind if the circumstances change. But for me, he's been a success, and I think he's going to be even more successful in the years to come.
Yeah, I think that's he's grown, but if you bullet Ryan Day, which some people want, there's always people that want everybody gone. But with Ryan, you lose him, you lose Chip Kelly, you lose Jim Knowles. I think Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly, they'd be out of work for maybe 90 seconds before they'd have either a head coaching job or high level coordinator job where they're making probably more money, because most people would be happy with being top 5 in offense, top 5 in whatever. I don't know what our actual offense thing is, but I love watching our offense. Defensively, outside of getting thrown over our head a couple times, which happens in big time football, I've liked our defense. I thought that they've been suffocating, and they've been, they crushed Iowa, and Iowa turned out to be pretty decent. But I think that if winning a national championship is the only benchmark, then I don't know, because like Urban, he won one. Obviously, we went on that magical run. And Tress won his in '02, which was another magical run. But there's a lot of luck involved in that stuff, man. I mean, you got to try to dodge injuries. You got to try to overcome stuff. But I think Ryan's got to get back to the winning side against Michigan, and I think that he's got to keep doing the rest of the stuff because we have the number one recruiting class. We were dominating in the transfer portal, so I think things are shaping up for Ryan to take this thing to an even higher level, just because of how proficient we've gotten in the transfer portal. Like I talk to a lot of people that get hit up by our NIL groups, and they're persistent and they're fundraising at a good level. So we're going to be whoever we lose. To the draft or whatever, like we're going to be filling holes in the portal. We're going to be getting big time guys, and I think that that's good. I think that we've got a good bit of juju going with South Florida right now. JJ Smith, obviously Ennis, Tate's from IMG. So again, I like the direction of the program. I think Ryan, it's kind of like one of those things where we dealt with him while he was learning how to coach on the fly from 2019 to 2023. And now, like, I feel like he's got the staff that he probably originally would have dreamed of having with Knowles and with Chip Kelly and Mickey and Pantone. I mean, he's got like a good staff all the way around. So it's hard because I think if you bullet him, then you're going to lose probably 70% of your staff. Because usually if a new head coach comes in, he wants his own strength coach, wants his own personnel people. You look at Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban talked about this, and I could tell Nick Saban was angry about this. He didn't retain a single coach from Nick Saban's coaching staff, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Like I've never seen a guy, because normally like when a new coach comes in, there's always one or two guys that get retained from the old staff to provide some continuity, and more importantly, give some intel on the players and who's what, where, and why. Like when Urban Meyer showed up, he didn't fire every coach. He fired a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches had expiring contracts, but he kept Stan Drayton and Mike Vrabel and Fickle. I mean, he always didn't keep Vrabel. I mean, Vrabel was on the outs, and then he interviewed him twice and kept him. And then, Vrabel ends up being the NFL Coach of the Year and beating him when he's with the Titans, and Urban's with the Jaguars. So I don't know. Like, I think Ryan is doing a really good job. And I'm not a sunshine pumper, but again, I always ask people that want to bullet Ryan Day, who are you going to hire? Who's that? Because this isn't like, Jim Tressel gets the bullet. Urban Meyer's doing commentary for ESPN, which he literally told me, he's like, I was just going around to all the schools around the country to look at coaches that I could hire for my staff. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, they're giving them all access to Texas and Oregon and everywhere else in the world. And he's like, yeah, I just wanted to actually get a good idea of who was a good coach. He went to Notre Dame with Brian Kelly, and so I found Ed Warner. So I think that, I don't think he's a failure if he doesn't win a national title, because the program is strong, and we've largely avoided the severe dips that are exceptionally common in college football. And again, I talk to you guys about this all the time. I'm like, Ohio State outside of 2011 has been recession proof for 20 years, and people don't want to hear that. But I'm like, well, who's been good the last 20 years consistently as nobody? Like, look at Georgia, look at Alabama. Alabama sliding backwards. Clemson, Florida State was a preseason top 10 team. They're an underdog to Duke tomorrow. Crazy. Texas Longhorns sucked, for a while. Michigan State. I mean, USC, Oklahoma. The Florida Gators under Urban were the best team in the country, and they are absolutely in the abyss now. The Hurricanes have had their issues, ups and downs with 4 or 5 different coaches in the last 20 years. So yeah, I don't know. I think if he doesn't win it, he's still been a success as long as he keeps it on the trajectory that it's at. Nevada, anything to add, and we'll head on to the next super chat.
No, just beat Michigan. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, people feel like they have to keep posting that. Like, no, you don't have to keep posting it. We all understand. If we lose to Michigan this year, all bets are off.
Oh, yeah. If he loses to Michigan this year, I mean, he's in serious trouble with the team that he has.
No, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone. But I mean, we're not going to. So I look at that as like, threatening the relationship. That's like going home to your wife and going, well, if you sleep with Julio Iglesias, I'm out of here. Like, why are you even talking about that? You shouldn't even know Julio Iglesias. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, come on.
If you play goalie for Chelsea today, then you're out of here. You're getting divorced.
Well, because you're so unathletic, and you can't have unathletic
fall,
kids, man.
you fall down. Yeah, I'd be fine for papers after that goal, man. Good God. Jermaine Goins, thanks for the 5. Is there any chance that Josh Simmons comes back next year? I don't think so. I'd be shocked. A little bit of a different kid. We're going to have a big nugget on this tomorrow, kind of about the inner workings of the team on BuckeyeScoop.com. But I've been shocked before. He's going to have his surgery on his patellar tendon, but, I don't know. He is a different bird. And I've heard from a lot of people that he's a different cat and, Cali kid. And he's not a Midwestern kid. So if he can get out of here and get out to the sunshine, he's going to be gone. But Nevada, what are your thoughts? Is there any chance that Josh Simmons comes back next year? Thank you. I appreciate that, Jermaine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, if you'd have asked last year, I guarantee if I'd asked you 6 games in last year, what are the odds that Trey Henderson's back for his senior year, or JT Tumaloa, or Denzel Burke, or Jack Sawyer, you would have said no chance that those guys aren't coming back. And so, in the NIL era, man, you never say never, because if they stroke him a big check and he's rehabbing that leg and kind of going, I need to show the NFL teams that I'm back, yeah, he could come back. So I don't know the answer to it. I agree he's a kind of a free spirit, kind of a different kind of kid. But in this era, man, you never say never.
You can see my face, and that's why I mute my microphone. And I say it looks like on the Christmas story when Ralphie says fudge, but he didn't really say fudge. Like our boy Emmanuel Clase just served up a 2-run dong to Aaron Judge.
No, no, he did.
You didn't live bet the Indians, did you? I hope you didn't.
No,
it was 3-1. 3-1 with the Cy Young winning closer coming in, and Aaron Judge takes it out of town. Oh my God, he crushed that thing. Aaron Judge is kind of good at baseball. So yeah, all of our Indians fans are they're sad pandas right now. I love the Indians. This sucks. They brought him in to get one of his 5-out saves, and it's like Judge took that thing oppo taco. D Sunny, thank you for the 5. If you had an elite guard and elite tackle along with a serviceable tackle and guard, would you have the elite on the same side? I was like, God, D Sunny, you ask the best questions. I swear to God. That is a great question. I would probably put them on the same side just because, it's like when Seattle had Walter Jones and Hutchinson, 2 Hall of Famers side by side. Like, if you really, really need a yard, that's where you're going. You're going behind Walter, maybe the best guard and the best tackles that have ever lived. Like this year we had Donnie and Josh Simmons next to each other, and I thought that was working out. I mean, I guess Oregon, it was working out incredibly well. So I, before Josh got hurt, but I think I put him on the same side, and then you put the lesser guys on the right side, and you can put a tight end over there, kind of help him out a little bit. But I like having that dominating left side. But again, everything's different. Like the Dallas Cowboys had Tyron Smith and Zach Barton on opposite sides, and they put Zach at right guard and put Tyron at left tackle. And there's a lot of ways to do things. But I think if you have 2 monsters, you put them on the same side, and you just know that when you need a yard, that if you're running a quarterback sneak, you're going to bend over, you're going to go over to the left a little bit instead of heading straight ahead. I mean, it's just holy shoot. They just took him yard. Stan just went yard too.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh my God. We're now losing 4-3. Oh my God. Versus the Cy Young winning closer. Oh my God.
Here's the thing. Don't throw a slider. Throw your cutter. He got hit with a slider again. Like you're throwing got 102 mile an hour cutter. Why are you throwing the slider there? Like, what are you doing?
The flattest slider of all time. All right, what would you do, Nevada, if you had an elite guard and an elite tackle? If you put them, would you put them on the same side, opposite, or would you throw a cutter instead?
I would put them on the same side. It's kind of like in hockey where you're like, do you spread out your talent, or do you have a power line? I always like to have a power line. That's just my thing. I like to have that one line that the other team just doesn't have an answer for. And for me, I like having a power side that when you need it, you can go to it, and the other team has to compensate for it. And so I put them on the same side.
I think that and hockey's different because that's like the ultimate one. You have like McDavid and Draisaitl. You separate them and make them harder to defend. But Yeah, it's just hockey. Obviously, when it gets down to the nitty gritty, man, those guys went in the other night in 3-on-3 overtime, and they ended the game in about 2 minutes, which was awesome to watch. Quintucky, thank you for the 20. Donnie Jackson needs to learn how to snap. That's the only way to get him off the ball on time. He looks like the Exorcist girl with how often he gets beat across his face. What an image. That is a great. That's why I love this show. I never know what people are going to write. But yeah, Donnie, like I said, Donnie is, missing camp did not help Donnie. I think Donnie is a guy that preseason All-American, a lot of hype. And I think he's playing okay, but I don't know if he's All-American level. Again, like he got beat late in outs. And again, I've seen that before when it's loud like that. I mean, it's tough. But when you're playing guard, there's no excuse because the ball's right next to you. If you guys stand up and put your hand on the ground and you look at the ball, then it's like, I don't know. But what are your thoughts about it? Donnie Jackson, again, Kentucky, I appreciate you. Thanks for the 20. Donnie Jackson needs to learn how to snap. It's the only way to get him off the ball in time. He looks like the extra skill, how often he gets beat across his face. What are your thoughts?
I think he's been pretty good. I think he's been pretty good. He's certainly got, and look, he's been beat. Everybody's been beat. But I think that, I think when he came back, I thought the line was playing good. I thought the line went from good to very good, borderline better than very good plus when he got back. So I'm probably a little bit more bullish. And I just got to make, I know he's been battling injury as well. He's just got to stay healthy. But I like that. I think that, again, he hasn't been perfect, but I think he's been pretty darn good.
Yeah. Oregon Stacker, thank you for the 5. Oregon by 14 on rematch in Indy. What are your thoughts? I just don't. 14. I mean, I blame those points all day if that's a betting line.
Want to bet?
That's we'll put that money in escrow right now. It's like we lost by 1 point in Alston after a 5-hour flight.
Yeah, I'll take Ohio State plus 12. Just give me Ohio State plus 12 for whatever amount, man. So put it in the thing. I'll
DraftKings and FanDuel have Ohio State as the second highest odds to win the national championship still. So it's like they'd probably be a betting favorite versus Oregon if they play it in a neutral site.
No question. They'll be probably a 4-point favorite in a neutral site game. Maybe even a 6-point favorite. They'll be a sizable favorite over Oregon on a neutral site game.
Yeah, I mean that's. So yeah, I don't know. Well, Nevada, can wrap this thing up. We can close this thing out better than our beloved Indians. God, that sucks. Let's wrap this thing. Any final thoughts?
No, just look. I think in adversity, man, you find yourself, and I think this Ohio State team is going to find out a lot about itself. We're going to see some new faces out there against Nebraska, which is exciting. It's kind of like. The first time you get the chance to see guys that have been kind of buried on the depth chart that haven't really had a chance to shine, and we're going to see a supposedly new, more aggressive type of defense, something that's going to emphasize pressure over constraint. Now we'll see if that happens. I cannot wait to see if that happens. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be stomping around the house and me and the Chewinis are going to be bouncing off the walls. But I'm confident it's going to happen, and so I'm on team pressure because we need to bring pressure. And I don't care if that's on Caleb or the linebackers or the defensive ends or whatever it is. You've got to find a way to pressure the quarterback. What happened on Saturday night was unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see what we unveil versus Nebraska. That being said, appreciate you guys tonight. Happy birthday, Steely. I hope you have a great night tonight, my friend. I appreciate you, brother. I hope you're doing good. Again, I appreciate all you guys on here. I've started all my Indians fans. This sucks. We're watching this thing live, so you're getting some live reaction from me. But hopefully they still got a couple innings to go and find a run to tie this thing up and go get that dub. So with that being said, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys so much for all that you guys do. Another great night on Buckeye Scoop. Join BuckeyeScoop.com, guys. Our message board has been on fire. We're going to have a huge nugget tomorrow talking about some of the inner workings of the bye week. And we're really just cranking. We're just killing it right now, and we just love what we're doing. So if you guys want to do something huge for us, again, I ask every night. Again, it means a lot to me when you guys do it, when you guys show me that you've done it. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Completely free. Literally nothing. You don't have to type in an email, anything. Click on it, load it up, click subscribe. huge for us. Again, thank you guys for all that you guys do. But that is like the nicest thing you can do for us because we're really trying to grow that because it's not where it needs to be. So we are kind of putting on an all-out search to try to get that done. So, but I appreciate you guys so much. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.